Small talk.
Welcome, everyone, to this special episode of Small Talk. We are joined here by the entire Dorklair crew. This is awesome. This is something like that I never envisioned, but we got Sean and Eddie joining us, and
How's it going,
then
guys?
with the Dorklair crew, we are joined by Bill, Larry, and Chris. Thank you guys so much for doing this. I am so extremely excited, overly excited about this. As when, real quick, I'll just, of course, break the ice here. When I started Small Talk with my old co-host Damien, I needed ideas on how we wanted to set things up, and I know this sounds like I'm just pumping your guys' tires, but what you guys did was what I wanted our show to be. The way that you guys are able to do so. If you haven't listened to them, definitely check out their podcast. You guys don't do live, right? You just do the weekly podcast.
Right. It's audio only too.
Right. Yep. And you guys at the end of every show do like a review that typically at least two of you guys all have, and it's really cool to see. I've really liked a lot of your guys' segments you do. Like Bill, I know you guys do like a figure the hunt segments, things like that. Anyways, I've been a big fan for a long time. It's weird. I feel like
I told you, Larry. I told you.
Equan already threw it. We're joined by Steve Austin. Yeah. But yeah, I was telling Bill earlier that I feel like it's really awkward, but I feel like I know you guys already. I've been listening to you pretty much every show since I started. So it's been good. You guys have been an inspiration on me and trying to keep me careful from making sure I'm not taking too many ideas from you guys, but at the same time, taking the things that you guys that do very well. So glad for you guys to join us. I'm super excited. One of the things when we have people on, we always kind of go through three big first questions, and we'll go one at a time here. But the first thing that we'll kind of get into is, when did you guys start collecting, and what was it?
Wow. So I've been collecting. Let me first of all, I want to go back to one thing. So you mentioned your,
Sure.
we're sort of this inspiration for your format, and I pretty much stole that format, like our format with an introduction, recent pickups, toy news, and a review. Like I pretty much took that format from Action Figure Blues podcast. So if you like that format, if you like what we do, Action Figure Blues has been around for probably 3 times as long as we have. They've probably got 500 episodes.
Okay,
they're fantastic. Yeah.
That was one of my issues when I was starting off, is I was having troubles finding, I guess, podcasts just revolving around figures. At the time, I found, there's a couple in Hot Toys, because that's what I collect a lot of as well, is Hot Toys. But I started getting into Mezco, and I was trying to find out a lot out there, and I wasn't able to find much. So that's good to know. I'll definitely have to follow up on that. But then the other big thing that I really liked is you guys do collect a lot of different things. As you guys probably know, there's no way you can cover everything for small figure collecting. And so you kind of got to pick and choose what you want and what you do collect. And so I know you guys collect a couple different lines that we're into, but no, that's a good shout out with the way you do. And then too, Bill, you also have some connections with some of our network brothers, I guess, that we kind of have a relationship with 6 Scale Scavengers, Brian and Chris. Now just those two, I guess, as of right now, since TC has dropped off. But you guys have a relationship with Brian, right?
Yeah, so Brian, when I first started Dorklair, Brian was my co-host, and he was big into figure arts at the time. And then eventually he kind of started drifting off into the Hot Toys stuff, which I wasn't collecting really at the time. I think I had one. And then I started having guests on, and I had Chris on and Larry on, and then it kind of turned into the show. You know what I mean? But yeah, I still talk to Brian. I see him. So those guys are kind of local. They're in New Hampshire, and I'm in Boston. And so I'll see those guys at conventions, like in Boston. And I'm hoping. So I'm actually going to my second convention since the pandemic tomorrow, and I'm hoping to see. Chris said he might go, but not so sure. But
Which
yeah,
one is
so
that?
It's a very small collectibles. It's called Northeast. The Northeast Comic and Collectibles Show.
Okay.
It's mostly just like toys. There's a couple very minor like voice actor type celebrities from the region, but yeah. So maybe I'll meet up with one or two of those guys tomorrow. So yeah, they're local, and we've hung out a couple times, and great guys. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of the Scavengers, and it's probably partly their responsibility, partly Chris Marino's responsibility, that I'm now getting a lot more into Hot Toys too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough bug to kick for sure. I went the opposite, I feel like, of most people with like collecting, where so I started very first with the first AVPR, Alien vs. Predator Requiem NECA figures back in the day. Like, I think it was mid to late 2000s. And they were just, I always joke about how terrible of figures they were, actually, because they were damn near statues, and they had, like, awkward articulation, like, in the middle of the bicep and things like that. But then it wasn't long until I found out about Hot Toys, and I'm like, oh my god. These alien mouths, like, you just push a button, they come out, and Predators, like, you can attach the blades and pull them out, and then that's how I got into Hot Toys. Well, then, fast forward about 10 to 15 years later, Jesus, Mark. 10 to 15 years later, I would say I started figuring out that it's too much of a rabbit hole space-wise. There's no way that I would be able to display everything. What I always told myself is, when I have a house, I'll be able to display everything. Well, then I got a house, and I figured out I still wasn't able to display everything. So then I sold everything back, and then I started getting very heavy into Mezco. And it was because one of the guys who actually does... he's from he also has a Hot Toy podcast. It's like the Hot Toy Cast, I believe it is.
Eamon's.
Yeah, Eamon. I started following Eamon on,
Eamon's
I don't know
awesome.
how. Yeah, I don't know how I found him at the time, but he does designs for Mezco. He's an artist, and
He does a lot of
that's
art
how
for Masters of the Universe as well.
Yep, right. So that's how I got into Mezco, and then after a while, I was like, oh my god, I can collect like 6 of these for the space that one Hot Toy takes up if you do it right. So then I started kind of going back and collecting smaller stuff, but it's just kind of funny how the collections go. But so Bill, how did you start collecting? I guess like the first things that got you into it.
So I've been collecting my entire life, really, but not figures. So I was in high school. I started collecting Magic the Gathering, and like that was pretty much all I collected, pretty much my whole life up until I became a dad in 2014, and it was pretty much, I don't know, it was like a nostalgia thing, and I picked up some vintage Star Wars figures, right? And I started collecting those a little bit, and I was on Reddit, really, is what did it. Like, I was on Reddit, and I was looking for like ways to clean and not restore, but to just kind of like take care of vintage figures that have been sitting in dusty piles for a long time, like what's the right way to clean them and like freshen them up and stuff. And like I got into forums, and I just started seeing more and more of the modern stuff. And 2014 Black Series was just kind of getting started, and so I started picking up a few of those here and there, and that's kind of how it started. That happened, and I'd say it was probably the summer fall of 2014, and by the end of that year, Figure Arts had announced Vader. They had announced their first one in Mafex, and so I already was starting to kind of like look at that stuff, and just kind of kept going over the years. And yeah, that's pretty much how I started. So I'm really not a lifelong action figure collector like a lot of people are. I've only been collecting figures for the past 7 years.
Okay. Larry, you're getting all kinds of love in the chat here.
I can't see it, so I'll have to take your word for it.
Mark said, Larry reminding me I haven't used my squat rack this week. I got his shoulders looking at me.
There's no excuse not to squat. You have to go to the bathroom too often. You need to be well trained for this. My story could not be any more different than Bill's. Growing up, we didn't have a ton of stuff growing up. I wouldn't say we were poor, but we were not kids that got something every time we went to the store. We got toys for Christmas, birthday, maybe a G.I. Joe figure in the Easter basket. And since my birthday's in January, that's a long 10 months between toys. And so I learned early on to really take care of my stuff, because what I did get was not that much, and it was pretty far between. So I had a collector mentality from a very early age. My little brother never really cared for toys, but they bought them for him. So as a result, I got Soundwave, which he got. I got his Soundwave before that Christmas when we got Optimus Prime and Megatron in 1984. So I still, to this day, in my boxes in the garage, I still have all of my vintage Joes. I have all of my vintage Transformers. I have a couple of vintage Masters. And I never let go of that love for it. You get into middle school and high school, and for someone my age, those years of, about 1990 through about 1994, 95, those were our dark times. The only thing we would see of Star Wars, they did the Bendums in like 93, and then you had the die-cast figures in like 94, but then they started making this magazine called Star Wars Galaxy. I don't know if any of you guys remember that. This was in 93, 94. And, and it was just like, as Star Wars was starting to come back, Heir to the Empire had come out, we had the Thrawn trilogy, and Star Wars was starting to pick up steam. And I remember hearing through this magazine that Kenner was going to relaunch the 3 3/4 inch line, Power of the Force 2. And I knew roughly, we didn't have the internet then, we didn't know dates of stuff releasing.
Yeah.
Roughly. I'm sorry?
Oh, I just said, that
somebody's
I couldn't
frozen.
imagine what that was like, trying to, I guess, figure hunt without the internet. Can you hear us, Larry?
Oh, Larry's freezing up, it looks like.
Yeah, we'll remove him for a second.
Oh, lost him.
And then we'll add him back in here in a little bit. But I'll tell him to rejoin. But Chris, if you want to go ahead, I could listen to Larry all day. He is a damn encyclopedia of like retro collecting, isn't he? With like the
It's everything, because you talk about the comics, this, that, like, he's just
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, this artist did this guy, and then
His memory is
everything.
incredible.
it seems like it. So yeah, Chris, if you want to kind of go here while I message Larry.
Yeah, sure. So you kind of tailing on to that thing, or tagging on. When the Powder Force 2 launched, my older brothers, who were like 5 to 8 years older than me, they were like, oh, because I liked Star Wars at the time, so I started buying them, and they were like, you don't want to open them. So I didn't open them I didn't open a figure for like maybe a year and a half or something after I started collecting the Power of the Force 2. So I would go around, and we would go to stores and buy those things, and then I would pick up other things here and there. For 4 or 5 years throughout high school, I would get those type of figures, and then dropped off for a while until like 2010 or 2011. Like whenever the vintage collection came out, I don't remember what figure kicked me off really. I mean, maybe I was just picking up a Vader figure or something, but I got pretty heavy into that, and then started doing look. I always kind of knew about the Masterpiece Transformers, and I picked up like the Walmart one, Starscream. So I have that one still. Love that figure. And then, yeah, kind of going into where Bill was, collected Black Series immediately because I was really into that. Because in my head, the Black Series, I was like, oh, these are kind of like the Masterpiece Star Wars figures. Because I didn't, there was no. I really, honestly, wasn't even aware of Sideshow at that point. Of like a large, really large scale with soft goods and all that. And then, so yeah, and found the imports and everything, and it's just been, I don't know, uphill or downhill since then, whatever you want to look at it.
Interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting to me to kind of hearing about everyone's background. Larry, so where were you at when you kind of dropped off here? And
I'm
thank
sorry,
you
what
so
was the
much.
last thing you heard me say?
Power of the Force 2 coming out?
Okay, yeah. So what I was saying was at the time, we didn't have internet, but we knew roughly like what month it was going to drop. And every single day I was driving to the Valley Hills Mall, which is like 30 minutes out of the way because that's the only toy store that we could get to. And 5, 6, 7 days in a row, and I finally found them, and I scooped them up. And I can honestly say I've been a collector ever since. From there, I stayed with whatever Star Wars retail line until 2013. I was living or 2012 when I moved to Miami, put a bunch of the stuff in storage. Now this part makes you sick. All of my Power of the Force 2 through 2012, I had a complete 3 3/4 inch collection. It was stolen out of my storage unit. Over 600 figures. I still get a little sick to my stomach when I think about it. Yeah. So that was just that was an awful experience. But after Power of the Force 2, Beast Wars came out, so you had the Transformers resurgence, and it just fed from there. And like Chris was saying, I had a good friend on the Bot Talk boards, and back when discussions boards were still relevant, and he lived near me when I was in Northern Virginia, and he imported stuff. Not many people were doing that at the time, and I remember going to his house and seeing these amazing looking Seeker jets. What in the world is this? This is the Masterpiece line. Have you not heard of this? I was like, no. So he sold me my first Masterpiece figure. It was a gray Starscream, which if you remember the MP, was it 04 or 03 or 04, whatever that first Starscream was, it was kind of in this grayish blue color. Didn't even look like Starscream. And then shortly after that, they did an Optimus Prime here in the States, and I've been on it ever since. The only MPs I don't have that were regular issues is I don't have the MP, I think it's 04 was Prime and his trailer, and then the Sleep Convoy from Japan. I have everything else. As I showed you guys before the show, this guy just landed. If you're on the fence with this one, folks, buy him.
Hold on,
Telling
put that up again, and put that up to the camera again. What?
Oh, yeah.
Which
yeah,
one
so
was
this
that?
is the Masterpiece 52 Starscream. And
That's
when you look at this thing, it's like the cartoon just came to life. I mean, there's no backpack virtually. The kibble, they hide everything so well. And this is a little thing, but on a figure this scale, this impresses me because obviously you expect your Unicron to have, all of the digits manipulable.
Sure.
This one, all of them. You can do everything from a fist to a pensive, I'm thinking about it, to a stone cold salute. This guy does it all. It's a wonderful figure. He comes with a ton of accessories, 6 face plates. I'm anxious for the other Seekers and the cone heads. It's going to be awesome. But the thing that got me, the other half of my collection, the biggest part of my collection is Transformers, and then the other part's figure arts. And that's kind of Bill's fault. When the god-awful New Hope wave of the Black Series came out in 2016, they had that awful Luke and Leia. And those paint jobs were abysmal. And that's when I said, you know what, I'm done. These figure arts figures, they're $80, $70, $80 a piece. I would rather have one that's perfect than a whole bunch of them that have little things wrong with them. And
Right.
so I was looking for a podcast on figure arts, and Bill was the only one that I could find. So, I started out listening to that and got hooked on the Star Wars, then got hooked on the Avengers, and so here I am. Lots of Masters of the Universe, too. I had the entire Classics collection. Really loved that collection. And, so, I guess I've always been a collector. It's as
Yeah.
I've gotten older and gotten more disposable income, the collection has just grown. And I'm very fortunate in that my girlfriend is very supportive of it. And in fact, she's bought some of my favorite pieces in my collection for me. So that's why I'm in an empty room working on moving into her place and turning this into a rental. This used to be my collection room. When she moved into her place, she set an entire room aside and said, when you moved in, this is your collection room. So,
Oh my God.
guys, if you can find a beautiful, supportive woman, I highly recommend it.
It's funny because
Yeah.
Chris and I watched as Larry's room slowly became disassembled in the background as we recorded each week.
Yeah.
And is this your first time seeing it empty now?
I think it was pretty empty on our last recording. It
Yeah.
took me,
Okay.
because I didn't want to pack it. When you move, your collection is the biggest pain in the butt, right?
Yes.
So I moved it like one shelf at a time over a course of about 6 or 7 weeks. So it was very manageable. I would take a few things over there at a time. It gave me an opportunity to clean stuff off, to rearrange some things. I bought a lot of acrylic stands to give more depth to the shelves, especially on some of those figure arts. You know, the cubes in those shelves are like 18 inches, and these are 6-inch figures, so you can get a lot of vertical use there in the back part of that shelf. Same thing with
Sure.
the mezcos. So took the opportunity to do that and have a lot of stuff that's had to go into storage because the collection keeps growing. And Stead said to me, she said, "That's okay." She said, "When we build our next place, we'll just build you a bigger room." I was like, "I like it."
Yeah, you gotta. I think it was Mark in there, who's a regular listener of ours. And I think he actually is in your guys' group too. Mark
Yeah,
Pearson.
yeah.
He said you got a good one there, Larry.
Oh, believe me, even without the collectibles, I outpunted my coverage like you can't believe.
Yeah.
As a fact.
Yeah, so just so you guys are kind of brought up to speed on what we do here, we'll kind of go down the line. I already went into, like, I do NECA Predators and Aliens, Hot Toys. I dabble with Marvel, mostly Star Wars, Aliens, and Predators. I wish there was more Hot Toy Aliens, to be honest, but and then my Mezco collection is out of hand for sure. It's I got to get it under control. But and then Sean, what do you kind of dive into there?
So, going back in the day, I used to build the old school Gundam models from Gundam Wing, and that was kind of like my main thing that I did, and that was kind of like middle school. But as I kind of got older and into college and stuff, I picked up Yu-Gi-Oh again. So I played it when it first came out. I remember getting we got a VHS tape. We got a VHS tape from in the mail, and it was the first episode of Yu-Gi-Oh. And from there, I was hooked. And then, you get older and you move into other things. But when I got into college, I was like, you know what? I want to pick it back up. Just have something to do. And then I just realized I was wasting so much money in it trying to build new decks every month because the ban list would hit. So I jumped into comics for a long time. Never picked up a figure. And that's kind of the bulk of what I've been doing for a really long time up until recently, where I've gotten into Marvel Legends, sold a lot of those off because I wanted to get into Hot Toys and statues now, and kind of going back, picking up some of my older childhood stuff like I was showing you guys earlier. Got the Punch It. We'll talk about that next week, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot of comics. I just actually sold off 8 short boxes full of comics.
Wow.
Just because we're moving, and I don't want to clutter our new media room that we're going to have full of comic boxes. So I decided I was going to get into Hot Toys and statues so I can at least see my favorite characters out and about. I know the statues take up a lot of space themselves, but it's better than having your comics just sitting there in a box. But I've kept a lot of the important stuff. I'm a big Iron Man fan, so I'm completing the whole run of Iron Man, the whole run of Guardians, and basically anything Thanos. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. Statues more so recently. Got the Silver Surfer maquette with Frankie Nova, and the new Avengers Assemble Modern Thanos is some of my more recent stuff. Plus a Megazord that I picked up a few days ago from the shop I
that's
work
right.
at.
The
So,
Super 7 one, right?
No, this is actually, and we'll talk about it more next week, but this is the old, I think it's 1992, 1993 Megazord, the original.
Okay. Holy
So-
smokes. I'm going to ask a selfish question here quick. Have you guys, any of you guys ordered the Mezco Thanos yet or got him in?
I have not.
Mine's
You
on
have
order
not?
still.
Did you order it, Bill or Chris or Larry?
Nope, I passed on that one.
No,
You did?
Yeah, I just didn't see too. I don't know. I honestly don't have a real comic based 12 scale Thanos. I should pick up one, but I just didn't see that much of an improvement, I guess, over the
Yeah.
other ones.
People
At least
have
that
been
much of
getting
it
it,
because
right?
it's like 150, right?
Yeah.
155, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and people have it's in hand. A lot of people have been getting it in hand. It's shipped out from Mezco. Some stores are starting to get it. So
Yeah,
if you're on the hunt for that, check the stores.
Especially
I
local
believe
comics.
Stevens has it.
He
Sean,
does.
out there.
I
I saw him
messaged
post
him.
it on Facebook.
I had pre-ordered it with my comic shop, so I'm just waiting in.
Yeah.
If
mine
they
al-
ordered it from if they get theirs through Diamond, it won't be like it'll always be a couple like a
You
month
know,
or two later.
At least, yeah.
I had
Sorry,
had
Sean,
a,
real quick. One
yeah, go
six
ahead.
shooter said that the Marvel Legend one fits the bill. I actually saw that one in a comic shop today. The King Thanos one that you have, Sean.
yeah,
That one is really good. I think if you have that one,
it's awesome.
unless you want the cloth goods, I don't think you need the Mezco.
Was
There's
that
a
the
lot
one
of
with
good
the
comparisons.
with the exchangeable head? It was kind of an oversized
Yeah.
box, and it had the bearded
With the-
Thanos as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. That looked good. If I was a Marvel Legends guy, I would jump all over that. That looked good.
And
I've
for me,
seen
it's more-
pictures comparing. So you'll have to post those, Sean, because you're getting both, right?
I already have the King Thanos, and I'm just waiting on my comic shop to get the Mezco, because I had a Diamond working at a shop. We know how Diamond works, and they're pretty slow when it comes to figures. So I had the SH Figure Arts Iron Spider on pre-order, and I asked my boss if I could just transfer it to something else, because it had a release date last year for like March, April, and kept getting pushed back and more and more.
Mhm.
And then now it has what I think is a dummy date of December. So I'm like, these guys aren't never going to get this in. So
Figure arts one.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's been out.
We've had
everywhere.
that thing for like a year.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been out like a year.
Yeah.
So where did you guys order him from? Larry and
any
Chris.
of my stuff that comes from overseas, I either do Ami or Amazon Japan for the most part. Bill put me on to all this. I mean, I had no idea what to do with stuff I couldn't get stateside, and these guys, they trained me up in the old ways, and now I'm good to go.
You guys
Yeah,
definitely were the. Oh, sorry, Chris. You guys, I got to give you.
No, I was
credit
gonna say I
real quick
usually
before I
do
forget.
Hobby Link Japan or Amazon Japan.
Yeah, you guys were the biggest reason I got onto Amazon Japan. I had no idea how good of a deal that was until I listened to a podcast where you guys went fairly in depth about it, about like with the best price guarantee, and the shipping isn't insane, and then how quickly you get it. And then I ordered the SH Figure Arts Iron Man 3, like I Am Iron Man Mark 3. It's like the repaint they did.
Yeah.
And yeah, that thing got here unscathed. It got here within like 2 days of having it was, I think 3 days of notification that it shipped.
Yep.
And I think I posted in our group, Collecting Weekly Auxiliary, like, oh my god, you guys, if you're ever doing imports, do Amazon Japan. That is legit.
They're amazing. I mean, I use them for all of the Mafex stuff. Most of my Transformers masterpieces come from there. And when I said it was literally $6 shipping and it took 2 days to get here, that's what it was. It's amazing.
We're getting
guys
all
ever-
kinds of...
You guys ever use Anime Export?
I do
Over
use
Ami
Anime
Ami?
Expert.
Yeah.
I've had good experiences with them as well.
Yeah, that's the one I've always used, and I haven't got a ton of overseas stuff. But whenever I do order, I order through them, and I've always had good experiences. But I know most people do Ami over that one, and I just wondered if it was preference or.
I think
for me-
most of Ami Ami stuff, you have to pay when you order it. Some of it I have not had to pay until they ship. I think Anime Export. I can't remember if they're immediate or if they just changed to where you could delay it.
They
my
just
I've
company-
always
changed,
paid
yeah,
up
they-
front.
yeah.
I've always, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I thought.
Yeah,
they
and
just
it's
changed
still
it where
like
you
it's a
wait.
couple bucks off if you do
Yeah.
it right now.
Another good one is my.
But and also I like that. Yeah, my convenience is going. I like Anime Export because they basically have an unlimited warehouse. I've waited like 6 months to ship something. I've heard of people waiting a year to ship stuff. Ami, it has to be like that calendar month it needs to come out. Like, if it's coming out next, July 4th and you got another thing in June 29th, they're like, oh, that's 2 months. Sorry, there's a two separate shipping things.
Wait,
So
what do you
that-
mean by that,
yeah.
Chris? Is it like a loot thing, like Big Bad Toy Store? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Ami will let you pile a loot one calendar month. I mean, honestly, it's been a while since I've ordered from them, but because of that, it's just kind of. I used to use them all the time, and then because I was ordering a lot. But then I guess we started to get more stuff distributed here, like the Marvel stuff. So, but yeah, it was basically the calendar month. If it came out in that calendar month, they would combine that shipping.
I
So
never knew that.
it was-
I've ordered from them I think 2 or 3 times and had no idea that they did that somehow. But I've only ordered one thing at a time.
Yeah. I used to order a decent amount back in the day, and it was helpful, but then also annoying when it was just like, oh, this is like you get like a pay request like 3 days later for something else.
Yeah. You guys are bringing all sorts of celebs in here. We had Brian in the chat. We got 1/6 Shooter, who I've been following on Instagram forever, Trevor, right? Bill, I know you've met him, but yeah, you guys are blowing the chat up here. But so next question. Some of your favorite, you kind of dove into it a little bit, but your favorite lines that you like to collect, or that you probably either your favorite or maybe what you have the most of, and Larry, go specific because I get super confused on all the different Transformer lines.
Sure thing. You want to go ahead, Bill, or you want me to shoot it?
Yeah. So probably my top 3 are. So my number 1 used to be SH Figure Arts Star Wars. That was like my favorite thing, and they've just trickled them out so like infrequently now, and it almost seems like it's on a hiatus at this point, that it's like I can't even really say that it's like my favorite, or that because I don't collect them anymore because they don't make them anymore really. So that's one of my number 1s, but lately it's been mostly Mythic Legions and Mezco have been my top 2, right? I have probably more Mythic Legions than anything else at this point because of the price. They're $35 each if you're pre-ordering. So I probably have 100 Mythic Legions. I would say close to it. They're not all up, but I have a lot of Mythic Legions, and I have a good amount of duplicate Mythic Legions because I like to do kit bashes and stuff. So I have a lot of those, and it's probably my favorite to play around with and do those types of things. And then Mezco is probably my second most that I have. I have a lot of Mezcos as well, and I even have some duplicates of those where it's like I have multiple like Diaboliques so that I can make some various types of characters and stuff. And I didn't get Thanos because I've been trying to cut back on my Marvel stuff and superhero stuff in general with the Mezco because they just have so many different lines. I have to like try to prioritize a little bit. And Thanos was so expensive that I just was like, I think I'll pass on that one, because my like Avengers stuff that I have for Mezco is their little amount of MCU. They have a few MCU figures, and like that's most of my Avengers. I do have the Iron Man, the comic Iron Mans, and I have Spider-Man and stuff, but they don't have a ton of Avengers stuff, so I just I didn't go with Thanos. And then lately, my most recent thing has been Hot Toys. Like this year I have been like crazy with Hot Toys. I got that Mandalorian last year, and then the year before it, I got the Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett, and like that
Was
that
it the deluxe that you got or the regular version?
yeah, the deluxe Boba Fett.
Yep.
That was one of my first ones, and then I got Mando last fall or something like that, and it just like those two, I just started revisiting that Boba Fett and like that OG Mando. Just I fell in love with those two again, and I just started ordering more, and so I have a lot on pre-order now, and I've been picking up a lot of Hot Toys lately, and trying to like. Usually when I order a Hot Toy, I try to sell something. I try to pay for it by like selling something from the collection, so that I'm not
That's the
putting new money into it.
That's the 6-scale scavenger method, right? That's what Brian and
yeah,
Letty always kind of preaches. Use the collection to fund the collection, right?
Yeah, Brian sold his figure arts collection to start Hot Toys, and pretty much sold all. He had a complete set of figure arts and sold those to collect Hot Toys.
That's tough.
Sean, you got into Marvel's SH figure arts pretty hard,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I was. I'm a huge fan of in-game. It's. I always tend to go towards like the final version of what figures I collect or heroes I collect. I don't really dive too far out of the superhero stuff, but I'm creating the final battle scene.
Nice.
Is what I'm doing. So if they don't have an SH figure arts of it, I will buy a Marvel Legend to take its spot. And then, so Larry, I have a question for you. You said you did the Mofex, right? So do you ever choose between the two?
So the Mofex that I do, I step outside of my big three. I'll step outside of those for Batman. So the Mofex that I have ordered are all Hush and Dark Knight Returns.
Okay.
Also, I've got a ton of McFarlane Batman. The only other, do I have any other Mafex? Bill, have I mentioned any other Mafex? I've got the Mafex Boba Fett from Empire Strikes Back, which is freaking awesome. But I mentioned to Bill the other day, I said, damn them, they're doing such a good job on what they're releasing. That they're waiting a couple of years. They've got all of the designs are perfect now. They did what was the most recent one that they released? Was it Doctor Strange, I think, the Mofex that they announced? And they're just beautiful. If I did not have so much space invested in the figure arts collection, or if I were just a Marvel collector, I would absolutely grab that Mafex collection, because those figures look absolutely incredible. I love them.
They really seem. Sorry, there's something flying around. They really seem like they take their time. I think SH,
unintentionally or intentionally.
Yeah, exactly.
They remind me of, so I'm in medical sales, and they remind me of some of my doctors. Anytime a new medication comes out, they're like, I'm going to let all the other doctors use it for a couple of years, see how many of the flies drop, then I'll decide if I'm going to use it or not. I think that's kind of Mofex's. We want to see let all the other companies screw these designs up all the ways they can, then we're going to swoop in with just one. Because as much as I love figure arts, these Iron Man figures that they're releasing now, the Avengers Assemble, the Damaged Mark 6, the Iron Man Mark 3 with the improved paint jobs. I bought all of them. I mean, I've got of Iron Man's of Mark 1 through 7, I've got 2 of each, because you got to have one separate and one in the Hall of Armor. So they're going to get me every time. So Mofex is doing a good job of not angering collectors by, they wait a while so they can release one version, whereas figure arts gets idiots like me that, this Iron Spider from Endgame looks much better than the Iron Spider from Infinity War. I'll get that too, and I just put them on 2 separate shelves and I call it a day. But they're good looking figures.
They get me with the Iron Man too, because I have the Mark 85, like the regular version, and then I went ahead and paid the money for the P Bandai, the snapping one.
Who doesn't? That's normal to me.
Yeah, So
Well, and then you had Mark 80, right, from Infinity War, and then you had two more versions of that come out with various weapon setups. And then we've had 85, 85 Final Battle, and then 85 I Am Iron Man. So,
Right.
of course, I'm going to get all those. The only Figure Arts Marvel that I don't have the two black and gold ones from some convention back in 2016 when they first started them. I don't have those two, and I don't have the Hot Rod. I can't remember what that mark is.
The flames
It's
on
a-
it there.
Yeah, the one with the flames. I'm going to get
22,
it
I think.
eventually because it hovers at around $110, and it's on Amazon Japan somewhere all the time. So I'll either pick it up there or Mandarake. And I don't have Mark 42. I don't have the first Hulkbuster. I've got the second one. But one
But
day,
you were talking about that 301 doing that one, weren't you?
yeah, I'm thinking about it because it's a lot softer hit than going back and
Yeah.
buying the Figure Arts on the aftermarket, and it's a beautiful figure. Speaking of 30, I saw someone pop up in the chat saying that 30 Bumblebee is awesome. I got the Optimus Prime from the Bumblebee movie, and boy, 30's knocking it out of the park with everything they do.
That's good. Hot Toys needs that. Going back to figure arts, so this is like the only time I can chime in with figure arts talk because I'm not super huge into that yet anyways. So I have Mando, and I'm actually waiting to really kind of go in depth about the Mando until I get the Mafex one because I want to really compare those two. But that Iron Man 3, the repaint that I said I got earlier, I have that and the Mark 1. The Mark 3 and the Mark 1, sorry.
Yeah.
The redos of those, and you guys can disagree with me, but I've had the Hot Toys Mark III, even the redo of the Hot Toys Mark III, the diecast version, and I will say that SH Figure Arts is my favorite Mark III that I've ever seen in figure form.
It's the paint apps. They got
Yeah.
the paint apps so perfect on that Mark
Yeah.
III. And I
color.
don't know, Sean, if you have both of the versions because we just got re-releases of 6 and 7. I can say the same thing about those. The paint on that is just so perfect. There was nothing wrong with the original releases. They just took a figure that was about an 8 and they made it a 10.
Yeah.
So I'm a lot like you, Larry, where my wife entertains my collection very much.
Nice.
So I have to be careful because I'll go down the rabbit hole real quick with this stuff. But a lot like what Dylan said, funding the collection through the other stuff that you have, right? That's kind of where it's at right now. I'm in a tough spot right now as far as wanting to double up on certain figures. So I've been talking to a lot of the guys at the shop that I work with, and I'm like, man, I really want to get a Captain America, Sam Wilson Captain America, right? So I'm kind of thinking I might pick up the Legends one just to have it, but man, that SH Figure Arts one that they're coming out with, it looks so nice.
It's got
But
a
then I'm
wingspan the size of my arms. It's ridiculous.
right. But then I'm like, well, maybe I can pay I guess it's a lot of bit more money, but upgrade it to the Hot Toys, So I'm in a process of focusing the collection, and I think this is a good segue to maybe ask you guys, what does it take for you guys to buy doubles of certain figures, whether it's a Legends or SH Figure Arts, or I don't know. Bill, do you want to start with that one?
Well, one thing that we haven't said yet that across the three of us is that probably one of the most popular figure lines none of us really collect, which is Marvel Legends. Like, we all have a couple Marvel Legends, but none of us are Marvel Legends collectors, which is, I think, one of those things that kind of makes Dorklair a little bit different. Is like we don't really ever talk about Marvel Legends. They're great, and I have I the few I have I love, but yeah. So
That's
what
all
does it
six
take?
of us, by the way, too.
Okay.
We all, like, us three have all, like, dabbled in Marvel Legends, but none of us are super into it. But, sorry, real quick, Sean, I wanna get Chris's answer for the lines. He hasn't gone yet.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Chris needs to go. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
What do you have the most of? right?
I don't know what the most, but I guess number one is the Hot Toys Star Wars. I love
Okay.
6 scale in general. Like I like dabbling in other things, like I've like Matrix collection and a couple Game of Thrones, but it's and a couple Marvel, but it's mostly Star Wars.
For
Number
6 scale,
two,
you're saying.
yeah, sorry, 6 scale Hot Toys, yeah. And going back to what Bill was originally saying, like, a couple years ago, I would have said figure art Star Wars, like, hands down. Like that, there's so many releases in that line that I like love. I think if that line was complete, it's still hard pressed to compare it to even Hot Toys, just because of all the options, like, I think of Qui-Gon Jinn because you get 2 heads. You get his death head. I think we I remember we joked a lot about that they like including some the death scene heads like with Obi-Wan or something with his closed eye look and some other ones like that. But yeah, Hot Toys Star Wars number one. I literally like look behind me trying to look at like things on the shelf and trying to remember other things I'm like if I was really ranking them. And then we don't even talk about them a lot, but like 2 things I really love because I think they're just so well done is the NECA 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures. I think they're just some of the best action figures ever collected or felt or just did anything with. They're really, really terrific. So I love that line. And the other one is the Mortal Kombat Storm line. I think I'm mostly complete on it, but it's just a great line. So many accessories. I love Storm in general. I think they're a really terrific company.
Storm is really good. I recently started getting some of their Golden Axe figures, like when the
Oh yeah.
when the first one
Nice
released
price.
with the dragon, the Battle Axe. I had that one, and then I pre-ordered the Death Adder. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Death Adder, and
Adder,
then I'm waiting for the newest one that you just teased to drop. The little like dwarf looking guy, but yeah, Storm's
Yeah.
really cool figures, dude.
Yeah.
So, Bill, which one is that?
So this is the Injustice Ares. It's awesome. It just came in the mail today from Amazon, and it's great. And I've been able to already find a whole bunch of different sort of kit bash options with my Mythic Legions. That's how I kind of collect Storm. I get their fantasy figures. Like I've been getting the Golden Axe stuff. I picked up this Ares. I'll get the other Ares that they teased. Like they teased a powered up one, like a bigger version of it. So I have been, that's another one, kind of like Hot Toys. I've been getting more and more into Storm over the last year, and they're phenomenal figures.
Yeah, so they typically scale bigger, right?
Oh yeah.
What is it in compared to Mezco? Because I got the only one I have is their Bane, and their Bane is already like oversized from the game, right? And it's hard for me to like compare that to. Bill's got the straight up comparisons there.
Dylan's a bit of a Mezco elitist guy, so he compares everything to Mezco.
Well, I know the reason I say that actually is because I know that's still pretty big. I know Mezco is oversized, so it's like Mafex, Mezco, and Storm are considered like technically not 1/12 scale, whereas like SH Figure Arts, right, is like the true, if you measure it out, the true like 1/12 scale.
Yeah.
I think for the most part.
Storm is very much like a 1/10 scale. Like they use,
Okay.
I think even with Death Adder, they're like, this is our first 1/10 figure. I'm like, so you're saying Axe Battler's out of scale, or no? Because it's just, it's they're all 1/10, but they're all big. Even the Mortal Kombat guys are all probably 6.5 to 7 inches. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's so I had, I was just telling Eddie at the end of our show that, so this is NECA's Homelander
Oh, cool.
from The Boys. I was a huge fan of the show, but I have just like the Marvel Legends Gamerverse, so from like the Avengers game. And I was like comparing, and I was standing them like side by side, and I'm like, oh, it's not terrible. But then, like, you put their heads together, and, like, Homelander's face is, like, twice the size of his, and that's really where it gets thrown off. But did you guys get any of those? I think you guys talked about them on your last show, but those silver skeletons from Storm, because those could go with almost anything, right? For the
I
most
didn't
part.
see anyone put them up yet, or I literally haven't seen anything about that. I try and keep tabs on it. But.
I kind of wonder if they're going to do it as like another exclusive, maybe for whatever they do for San Diego at home.
Yeah.
You know, like they did it with the New York one last year. They had the skeletons. Maybe they'll have the silver ones for that, and then put them up on Bluefin. I don't know. I hope they come out because I want those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, a Storm is very good or bad in some ways if you care about the exclusivity about just distributing it everywhere. Like, I'm almost certain every one of their San Diego and New York Comic Con figures has gone up on Bluefin and or Big Bad. So I'm hoping they get those. It's just because it's a foreign one. I'm not so sure, but
Yeah.
in the same way, I think they know a lot of people want gray skeletons, so I think they kind of
Right.
maybe hopefully figured a way out to redistribute them.
Yeah, maybe they'll do some other color too. You know, I feel like they can
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
reissuing those skeletons all different colors. Maybe
Oh,
they'll
yeah,
do,
every 1 or 2 a year.
instead of silver, they'll do gray or something.
Well,
Yeah.
they're doing pink ones
Yeah.
too, right?
They've done those ones.
The pink
right?
are out.
Yeah.
The,
Oh, okay.
the green one comes with the bloody Motaro. That's the one that Trevor just mentioned. And then they have the actual bloody red that came with the regular Motaro. So those are sort of branded in their Mortal Kombat lines. But they're the exact same skeletons, and they even the accessory skeletons that come with the Motaros have all the hands and stuff. Like they're full on figures.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. I have to. I've said this before. So, like, if I would be screwed if Storm got a license that I was super interested in, or like an IP that I was really into, because I would be screwed. I think with that, or we'd probably cover them a lot more too. But so real quick, this is always my favorite question. You guys got visibility on it already, maybe, so it's kind of cheating because usually it's really hard for people to pick this.
No, I haven't
But
looked
you're-
at the list. So.
Your favorite. So if you had to narrow your figures down, what would be your last 3 to go in your collection now?
My last 3 figures, like
Your
a single figure.
So like, either your last 3 or like favorite 3, whatever you want to.
So
Okay.
you're talking house is on fire. I can take 3 things with me. What am I
Exactly.
grabbing?
So,
Yep.
so my first one would be my Hot Toys Boba Fett, and there's some of the reason for that is because it's one of the few times my wife bought me a figure, and like she bought me it was like for my birthday a couple years ago, and it was like a gift card for Sideshow, and it was like one of those like perfect gifts, and I don't know, and that's the figure I bought with that, so like that one has a super special place. I'm trying to think of what else I would want.
Which Boba Fett? Because
The-
you have multiple Hot Toys, right?
The Empire Strikes Back Deluxe,
Okay.
the sort of regular Empire
Yep.
Strikes Back
That's
one.
that's the only one I have too, I think.
Yeah, I mean, now that I have the animated or the not the animated, I have the animated, but the now that I have the animated one. Now that I have that, I feel like I should take that one too because it's ridiculously overpriced in the aftermarket. But I don't want to base it on like price.
Yep,
So let
right.
me think of, like I really love my Mezco Spock. It was my first Mezco. I'm looking at it right now. It's right in front of me. I think that could be a contender for one that I would grab. But other than that, I mean, there would probably be an SH Figure Arts, but I'd have a hard time picking. I might have to pick one of my model kits, like maybe my model kit Grievous, because I put so much work into that. But yeah,
That makes sense. Yeah, that's my favorite question because it seems like that's typically the hardest answer that collectors seem to have with it.
it is. It's like, what's your favorite, or what has the most sentimental value, or which one
Exactly.
has the most monetary value, or something like that. But I don't have any figures from my childhood, so it's like None of them are like I wouldn't grab figures, quite frankly. I would grab my magic.
right.
I would grab my magic cards.
Okay.
If it's coming down to collectibles or books or something in this room, like I have a book on my shelf. I have a first print of or not a first print, a second print of Journey to the Center of the Earth. Like I have a 150-year-old book on my shelf, so like that might be something I would grab. But like if it was one thing, I would grab my magic cards. Like I know exactly like my binder and my box. I would grab those first. Because those to me have the most. I've had those since the 90s. I've been collecting since 94.
And they're still extremely popular. I'm pretty sure that's the only way in so I live in North Dakota, and I don't have many avenues to get my collection. Yep. And my comic book store, I swear to God, is staying alive off of magic cards right now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like they do really well with them. But Larry, what would you say yours are? Your favorite three?
My first reflex would be my HasLab Unicron would have to be on the list, but I might burn to death trying to drag that thing out of the house.
Yeah. Just throw it out a window at that point.
He'd probably be okay when he lands. I mean, he passed the drop test. No, actually, mine would be more, I think, for sentimental reasons. The first thing I would grab would be my Mondo Masters of the Universe Skeletor. One, because I love the line, I love the figure, but it was the first thing that Steph ever bought for me to contribute to my collection. She got that for me Christmas of 2020. And she consulted with Bill and Chris behind my back. I had no idea because she had no idea what to get me. And so she got that for me and started me down a rabbit hole, and now I'm all in on the Mondo line. So that would be number one. The second one would be a two-way tie, and not because, Steph, I know you're listening. I'm not kissing up to you. These are just, you made really good picks. These other two are two things that she got for me. I only have two Hot Toys pieces. I have Batman from Dark Knight Rises, and I have the Darth Vader from The Empire Strikes Back 40th anniversary that just came out, I guess, last year. She got me that one, and then the Mezco 112 Punisher Netflix, just because I love that. I think that's the best depiction of the characters that ever been made. So my number two would be a two-way tie between those, and then my third one would be definitely sentimental from my childhood. It would be my Optimus Prime from Christmas of 1984. It looks like crap. None of the silver is still on it. There's no vac metallized anything. The joints are all flippy floppy. I don't even know if he'll stand up without that leg spring making him, play the limbo like that figure did. And the trailer, I don't even think the trailer door still attaches, but I still have it. So it would be that Skeletor, one of those two figures, either the Hot Toys Vader or the Netflix Punisher, and then that Optimus Prime.
Do you still display that old Optimus?
No, because like I was not joking when I said it's hard to make it stand up. You remember that old Optimus Prime, like the way he transformed the legs, you just flip the legs down from underneath the cab. Well, there was a spring mechanism under there with little notches that would catch. Well, over 37 years of playing with it, 36 years of playing with it, the spring is still springy, but the catches don't catch. So when you try to stand him up, sometimes that cab just goes back into cab form. So you've got his feet standing upright and the belly pointing at the sky. So I can't really display him.
Sure. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little more lamer with my answers. My wife hasn't bought me anything, but that's mostly because I just pre-order. I've got everything locked in. So it's hard for her to just, sneak something in. But the three, I feel lame for it, but it's A New Hope Luke, A New Hope Han, and A New Hope Chewbacca Hot Toys figures. So
okay.
when I moved out to San Diego, literally 5 years ago in a week. And so when I first moved out here, I didn't have a job, and I got a job, and then I bought A New Hope Luke as a present for myself. And then the reason I really bought it because I love the Chewbacca, because I never ever thought I'd see a real haired, or whatever it is. I don't think it's synthetic, but whatever, a real furry Chewbacca that
right.
didn't look like shit. I was just that was the most impressive figure. I mean, it still is really incredibly impressive to me that it literally, they got it to look like that. And for some reason they screwed up the other ones they released, but the New Hope one looks terrific
somehow.
Yeah, the New Hope one is just great. And then picking Han just because he's goes with that trio pretty well. So they're some of my favorite figures. That Luke was like a deluxe because it came with the farm boy outfit, the poncho or the hat, goggle, the binoculars, everything. So it was those are great releases, and I'm very happy to have them. I'm very happy I decided to collect when I did. Like, if you're trying to get the New Hope figures now, it's sorry, you got to drop $2,000 or $3,000 to grab them. I'm very happy about that. Yeah.
Yeah, they started off with bangers right into when Hot Toys got that license and started getting into it. They did really well with them, and it's amazing. You never see someone go backwards like they did with Chewbacca. But Sean, I don't think I've actually asked you this question since like the first time you like appeared on Small Talk. So what would you say your 3 are?
Oh man. It'd be really heavy, but I'd say that Thanos statue. Man, that's my go-to. I love that thing right now. That'd be the number one.
And that one is Sideshows, right?
That's Sideshow's Avengers Assemble.
Yep.
And I think it would have to be my Gorgonites. It'd have to be my Gorgonites from Small Soldiers, just as many as I can grab. But 3 of them. If it was just those 3, because I couldn't pull out that Thanos out, it would be like it'd be Archer, Chip Hazard, and Slam Fist. I just love those guys so much. I was so sad when I got rid of them after I thought about it, and those would be the figures I got. Even over like my Hot Toys and stuff, even those would probably be the more lucrative things to take home. But it would definitely be those 3.
Yeah, that I don't think I'm totally, by the way, guys, avoiding this question, but I was gonna say, Sean, that would explain why you don't shut up about those Small Talk or those Small Soldiers figures that you got. I'm just kidding, Eddie. What would you say? I don't think we've actually ever asked you this question before.
For me, I don't know if it's a good question, just because I've only been collecting since 2018. So like, I have attachment to stuff, but I don't know if it's like, I definitely don't have anything from when I was a kid, because as a kid I was much more
a lot, right?
Yeah, and I'm still new at collecting, so I feel like I'm still trying to figure out like what my collecting thing is, but for me, I'm big into movies and stuff, and so if I had to pick, they'd probably be 1/6 scale figures, and they'd probably be like, my brother for my birthday one year bought me the Hot Toys, I think it's the DX06 or 5 Jack Sparrow figure. I really love that figure, so that would probably be one of them. They're gonna be all movie stuff. So
that was the first Jack Sparrow they did, right?
Yeah, the very first one they did that comes with the wheel to the ship and the different telescopes and stuff. So that one would be one. Probably my other one would be my Blitz. Is it Blitzway Mask of Zorro figure? Antonio Banderas Mask of Zorro. I love that movie, so that would probably be another one. And then I think it's Quantum Mechanics 1/6 scale Dread Pirate Roberts from The Princess Bride would probably be my third. And that's just going off the top of my head. I have a bunch of other stuff, but those 3, just because those movies, like, because now that I'm thinking about it, Neo from Matrix would probably be another one. So I don't know, but those are probably some of my favorite things that I have in my collection.
Now that I've made everyone else go, I can maybe come up with mine since I've had enough time. I haven't actually answered this since like probably episode, I don't know, 3 or 4 of Small Talk, if that even. So that means like 2+ years ago. I would say mine are Hot Toys Alien 3 Alien, so, or otherwise known as like Dog Alien or Runner Alien. He's like the brown one. His ankle joints are a little wobbly, but I think I can tighten them with a small screw. But I actually got that one without even like an art box. So what I did is I wrapped them in a garbage bag and sealed them because they're so notorious for the rubber like cracking and breaking apart. So that's how I've kept that one good over the years, because I've had that one since it like came out. Pretty much, I just bought it off eBay cheaper than buying it than I could have on Sideshow. And then the other one I would say is the updated Wolf Predator from Alien vs. Predator Requiem. That hot toy is very good. And then I would say probably my quarter scale Hot Toys Vader. I would say that's got like everything I want there. And I have to have some lineage to Star Wars for sure.
That quarter scale Vader that has the unmasked head, the Return of the Jedi, is that one?
Yeah, it's Return of the Jedi. He comes with his helmet that comes. Yeah, it's just a straight up head sculpt. So it's not like Empire Strikes Back Vader, where I think it's just like the back of his head that you see in their 6 scale version.
Yeah.
And I know, like, for years on the forums and stuff, everyone's been saying Hot Toy is going to do a DX 6 scale Return of the Jedi Vader, exactly how they did the quarter scale. But I've just loved everything about that figure. For the most part, it's fairly accurate from what I know. It's accurate enough for me. I know, like, some of the crazy Darth Vader guys will point out a few things that are inaccurate. I don't remember what they are. Zach, we call him the Oxfather, but the guy who started collecting weekly, he is huge into Vader, and he's one who definitely is pretty picky about it. I'm not exactly sure actually what he says about it, but that's one of my I would say those three would have to be in there. But yeah, that's
I have the Rogue
one of
One.
my favorite questions. Yeah,
I have the Rogue One 6 scale Vader, and then I've seen people like, you really have to crack the helmet off, and they like shove, I think, like cotton or something in the head to like make the lenses red, because they are red. There's just nothing behind them, and so I've thought about doing it forever, but I'm like, it's just like a little bit much.
It makes me sick seeing those pictures. Like if you go to like what is it, Sideshow Freaks or something, where they'll post like pictures of like forum. Like progress pictures of them doing that, and it gives me anxiety watching them, like imagining myself like trying to break off the helmet of Darth Vader. Oh my god, that drives me crazy. But I know like the Rogue One 6 scale Vader from Hot Toys, I don't sell, so I recently just started selling a lot of my figures to downsize my Hot Toy collection for room, and so far I've sold probably 20 plus figures.
Wow.
And the Rogue One Hot Toy Vader is the one that I regret so far at this point. I know a lot of people say it's relatively inaccurate and it's kind of stylized, but I think that's what I love so much about it, is that it was like what everyone calls like the perfect version of like an original Vader almost looking guy. Like his helmet they say is like too shiny and everything, but I really liked it. But that's always
it's terrific.
That's always a fun question. I love asking that to people. Okay, so kind of to get into some heavy topics here, because you guys on your podcast do a great job of staying out of community drama, we'll call it. I would have to say, so my day job, I talk to businesses a lot, and for what I do, I have to know the ins and outs of them a lot. So I sympathize with businesses a lot. I understand why they do what they do, and a lot of unknowns of why they do what they do. So I find myself agreeing with you guys and your points on things. You guys actually had a point I called out on one of the small talks, going on about G.I. Joes, I think it was, when you were saying how like Target, Walmart don't have enough. Well, it's because Target, Walmart, they don't give a shit about figures compared to like rolls of toilet paper or something
Right.
that they can make actual money on and will actually sell.
Yeah.
So like I gave you guys credit in the episode, but I took that from you guys, whereas that's a great point of like how caught up in the hobby we get. But anyways, my question isn't super relevant right now about that, but I know some of the guys, some of the other hosts, some other people in the hobby have issues with crowdfunding. Especially with established companies like Hasbro doing like HasLab and things like that. I've defended it saying
Or
it's an
McFarlane.
yeah, McFarlane too with like Spawn. I've defended it saying it's essentially easy ways for them to not have to worry about shelf space, buying out a certain amount of shelf space. Because I know that's a lot of times how it works, is they get given a certain amount of shelf space and they have to do with what they can with it. And if it doesn't sell super quick, it shrinks for like a Target or Walmart, right? So that's what I always, like, that was my defense with it. But, you know, a lot of times they'll say, well, they did it, you know, Hasbro did it with the Falcon back in the day, right? So, real quick, what's your guys' thoughts on large companies doing crowdfunding things like HasLab, McFarlane doing it with Spawn? I know Chronicle was going to do it with 1/12 Jurassic Park figures, and they ended up going under, so that didn't happen. But Bill, what's your kind of thoughts about that?
So I'm generally fine with it, but that opinion comes from more so because I'm used to it from smaller companies like the Four Horsemen with their Kickstarters when they were doing that for Mythic Legions, and really there's not a huge difference in what they're doing now and a Kickstarter aside as far as like the user is concerned, right? Like you just got to pay up front for this thing that's going to come out later, right? If it
Right.
doesn't fund, you don't pay. But now it's more like you're going to get it no matter what. And I think that's kind of like that can really be the only issue that I would imagine people would have, right? It's like paying up front, right? That's got to be the issue. Or is there some other?
Yeah.
Is there like another issue that I'm not
I
picking
agree.
up on in
Yeah.
that situation?
Well,
that
you
people would be
hear
annoyed
a
by?
lot of people complaining about, well, why don't they just make it for release and put it on the shelf? And
Yeah.
folks don't realize the days of walking in to Toys R Us and seeing an entire aisle of G.I. Joe figures on the wall and 10 USS flags on the bottom and lots of various sized accoutrement in between the two, those days are over. That's done. We are never going to see that again. And so this is what the companies have to do to get these things into our hands. Even the larger scale stuff that they do release at retail. For instance, you know, Dylan, you asked me to be specific with the Transformers I collect. I do masterpieces. I buy most every Titan that comes out. And then if the retail release looks really good, like this Studio 86, I'll buy that. I said that to say this. Those Titans, okay, retail releases, anywhere from $130 to $150 to $180. Of all of the Titans that have been out, I have seen 2 on shelves at retail. Metroplex, which was the first one, and Fortress Maximus, which was the second one. I have not seen any of the others on shelves. I know that Trypticon made it to Ollie's. I must have hit 20 Ollies in a 3-month period trying to find that sucker. Never
Wait, what's
could.
an ollie?
It's a discount kind of a what's the word I'm looking for, Bill? It's an outlet store. It's a discount outlet store. So all of those Captain Marvel figures that they couldn't give away, those went to Ollie's. When you could buy a dozen roses for $3, Rose Tico, those went to Ollie's. All the stuff that the big boxes can't sell, those go to Ollie's. So you go to Ollie's at any point, you'll find, you know, stuff that didn't sell anywhere else. You know, it'll be stuff that's a year old, 2 years old that they just had to get rid of. So if Hasbro, you look at, and that's a $150 price point. Well, look at Unicron. That thing is never going to retail. One, I don't know if you guys saw the picture, but I put up a picture of the Unicron box when it came. No retail store is going to give up the shelf space to keep those in stock. I can only imagine the footprint that the Razor Crest is going to have, the box. So you have to look, and this is for those who know I'm preaching to the choir. For those who complain, take notes, because for God's sake, it's you don't have to be able to crack atoms to figure this out. The stores sell based on what are they getting for that amount of real estate. They can put that Unicron on the shelf, and yeah, it's $600. How many of you think they're going to sell? They can put a giant Mondo, oh my God, the world's ending, I'll kill you for your big pack of toilet paper thing of Charmin there, and they're going to sell through that 100 times before one Unicron goes out the door. So that's what they're doing. When they do these crowdfundings, yes, we have to pay ahead of time. Big whoop. I'm going to be really caustic here, and I'm not going to apologize. If you don't have the money for this thing now, chances are you're not going to have the money for it in 6 months. Okay? You collect figures, you know they're expensive. If you are not budgeting now for something to drop, I'm sorry.
You shouldn't
know,
be
I
collecting
basically
those, maybe.
I tend to agree with both of you guys. It just it's for me like the paying up front for a company like Hasbro.
Yeah.
It's like you guys can probably swing this, or maybe half down or quarter down. You could probably swing it. Other than that, I'm trying to think of other ones. The most recent one I was thinking of, NECA had done a couple crowdfunding. They had done one Splinter figure from the movie that made it, and then they did a Gremlin figure that didn't make it, and then they wound up releasing it anyway.
Yeah.
So
And then it's like, all right, well, what's the point?
Yeah.
Then now NECA is doing Loot Crate too, which is just now you're just paying. It's pay to order anyway, but made to order. I mean, but
so Dean,
I'm trying to think of other crowdfunding companies. I don't know.
So Dean,
Well, look at
from the-
Valaverse. I mean, that was a Kickstarter, but still, and everything we've seen from Bobby's been on time. He's been great with updates. I just saw packaging samples. They look amazing. I can't wait to get those suckers on my classified shelf. But I don't mind paying. To me, and maybe this is me, if I pay it up front, then I don't have to think about it anymore. It's done and over with. I paid for Unicron up front, and then he came. I paid for this stuff up front.
That is
I
nice.
forget about it. And 6 months later, a year later, it shows up. Awesome. I don't have to pay for it.
So, Larry, all three of you guys I agree with. I'm playing devil's advocate here for good content. What would you say, though, Larry, if you get that item and you don't enjoy... it doesn't turn out how you were hoping or how the picture showed? Because we'll see that sometimes with Hot Toys with head sculpts. Hot Toys fans tend to be pretty elitist with how their head sculpts look, and one wrong expression or the sideburns are too high and people throw
An Ant-Man smile.
Yeah, that Ant-Man smile. That was actually funny. Some of the memes going around with that, but yeah. So like that's what I know a lot of people get afraid of paying up front is maybe it doesn't turn out how you're hoping. And so Dean on the Collecting Weekly show, I don't know if you guys have heard him rant about it, but his biggest thing is kind of what Bill and you guys pointed to is paying up front. That's his biggest gripe is paying up front to like a Hasbro or something like that. Like what you said, Chris, where they could probably be okay with it, but he feels like they don't need to do that.
But they also don't need to make the Razor Crest too, right?
That's my biggest answer.
So,
I'd rather have it. I don't care how I have it. I'd just rather have it made.
With
There's
just about every crowdfunding that's been the last couple of years, every high-profile crowdfunded project that's come down the line, whether something's been great or whatever, just about all of them, and I'm sure there's an example out there in the ether somewhere that someone can put up to prove me wrong. Awesome. I'm right the other 99 times. If I get that product and I don't like it, I can go on the secondary market and I can at least get my money back. If I got
that's true.
Unicron and decided I didn't like it, I could go get double my money.
Yeah.
If I got the job of if I had the katana right now, I could go get triple my money.
That's true.
So that's I look at it that way. And maybe I should be a little more Pippi Longstocking and little less Pollyanna. But to me, if something comes and it's 99% of what they said I'm going to get, and I understand that If I bake a cake exactly like the ingredients are in the directions tell me to, it's still not going to look like the front of the Duncan Hines box. Shit happens in production. That yes, they're factories. Yes, this that. Look, I sat through 10 years of Mattel's white screen of doom, reverse solders, wonky eyeballs, everything they could do with Masters Classics. But I also talked to Scott, and I listened to Scott and him talking about all the stuff that can go sideways in manufacturing. Yes, a person has a right, I guess, to say, give it to me exactly as pictured. I saw a lot of people losing their minds because of Unicron's mouth painting, and a couple other odds and ends. These are all things that if you really have the red ass about it that bad, you can fix it in about 30 seconds. It really isn't that hard to do. Just, to me, I think the only thing collectors love to collect more than toys is they love to collect a list of stuff to gripe about.
Yeah, and to like piggyback on that and to zoom out a little bit, like there's sort of like the two approaches where you can look at the reality of what's happening and adjust your collecting and your expectations to deal with that reality, or which is generally going to be, if you wait on anything, you can wait. You can wait on anything. You can skip pre-orders on anything, and you can buy it. You can. You just have to be willing to entertain the aftermarket, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the company's fault, you could argue.
That's just the reality, right? So,
Right.
like, people have that option to not pre-order. Unfortunately, you're going to have to pay aftermarket when it comes down to it. And so, generally speaking, that aftermarket, like Larry said, it's going to be high. And I guess the people who aren't willing to like sell a figure, if they don't like it, that those are the people who are probably worst off in this scenario. But I try to adjust my expectations to like what the reality is. Like, one of the things that I love and hate at the same time was last year, pretty much the last 12 to 24 months of the Mezco secret drops that have been like, I mean, I've been able to get them all, but like they have been so crazy. Like, and a lot of my craziness comes to the fact that I've been trying to help the general community grab these things. And I just love what they're doing now. Sorry, go ahead.
You do a great job of that, and on behalf of a lot of people following you, I would like to say thank you for a lot of what you do with Mezco and everything, because they don't make it easy.
No, and like lately they've been doing a much better job. They've been doing these pre-orders. But yeah, like my favorites, Mythic Legions, pay up front and it's $35. Or wait for retail and it's $50. Mm-hmm. Super 7 does it too. And in fact, Super 7 you could pre-order and not have to pay up front because the retailers get them too. But for the most part, I'm very happy with the fact that Super 7 put something up and there's a 30-day pre-order window, and I can get it or not in that 30-day pre-order window and just forget about it. Like I can think about it for 30 days and order it on the 30th and really spend time deciding if I want it.
Yeah.
And when something sells and sells out and then has a year of production, and then 6 months later there's new collectors in that line waiting for this thing and looking for pre-orders on this Mezco Conan the Barbarian or something like that, and then they get delayed and then it comes out, like, you got to be able to make your money back. It's just you got to be okay with the reality, which is if you pre-order something and you don't like, be ready to, if you don't like it, just sell it.
I'll tell you something that's funny. I'm on a lot of Transformers boards, Transformers groups on Facebook, and every single time someone came up complaining about something about their Unicron, I went on there and I said, there's a very simple solution. You paid $600 for it. You've not opened it yet. You can go get $1,200, $1,300 for it right now. Just go sell it. They don't want to get rid of it. So you don't want to keep it. You don't want to get double your money. No, you want to piss and moan and have people commiserate with you and tell you how right you are. And that's what it comes down to a lot of the time.
Yeah. So, like, I'm kind of skipping around here. We had a good segue. Oh, Chris, go ahead. You haven't said much.
Oh no, I was
about
just gonna
this
say the minor. It's not. It's unrelated to price. One minor thing, just with HasLab generally, I've noticed they have several. The what do you call it? The unlocks, and I'm like, they know they're gonna unlock all these. That's the only thing that's like. I'm like,
Yeah.
like they said 6,000 to get whatever. I'm like, and then they sell 25,000 of them. Like it blows it, beyond. I'm like, just can you just show us something, or on the other hand, have us really unlock something that's
Yeah.
like gonna really wow us. I guess that's the only that was my only other comment, I guess, about kickstarting with them.
That is what Dean griped about. So was it their second Kickstarter that HasLab did, or not Kickstarter, but second HasLab that they did, where they actually extended the
Yeah,
the
Unicron.
date?
They had to extend it to get
Unicron,
it
Yeah.
over
they
the
did.
finish line.
'Cause that was
And-
during.
Sure
and that's
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was his complaint. He's like, you're already gonna make it. Why put it behind a paywall if you're already gonna make it? That was his biggest point there. Kind of going to what Chris said, where like if that Razor Crest has got to sell well, and they probably did do it a little bit to where they kept it allowed them to kept adding things. I know it's very budget related with these companies. They have set amount of money that they're going to get from each one, right? And it has to reach that amount
Yeah.
to cross the percentage thresholds. But at the same time, you do have don't like what Dean would say, and like what kind of you're alluding to, Chris, is maybe don't put it behind a paywall if you know it's going to get there anyways.
I think
Yeah, that was
I
just,
think
yeah,
the
more or
big
less.
companies like McFarlane and Hasbro, like the companies that are well established that are doing them, I almost feel like they're doing it because Kickstarters are popular or
Yeah,
something.
they're doing it to
You know, like
generate
they could do it.
excitement and interest. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a hype vehicle.
Well, I know that
100%.
Yeah,
Todd,
if you look-
Todd was super upfront about why he was doing it, because he said retail stores like Walmart and Target have rules to how he packages his stuff, and he wanted to give it, like he couldn't give Spawn a really huge cape in the package because the box would have been too big, and so he wanted to give Spawn like that really giant, cape. That's
The shape.
articulated and whatever that he likes on Spawn. So, and like all of the box thing that he did with it to make it like really elegant and like a nice experience when you open it. He said all those things Walmart won't allow me to do.
Right.
So if I do it this way, I can do everything that I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
that-
think gone
you
are the
can,
days
but
of
you
the
could also
comic
just
shop.
sell it. So.
Yeah, that always goes back to that.
I mean, I guess what I was gonna, the point I was just gonna make was, I think it was Snake Mountain with Super 7 where they had kind of a hidden threshold they needed to hit before production. They didn't. I don't think they revealed it. They just said, we want to make sure we get to this. But with the Thunder Tank, they're like, we know we're gonna get X amount. We know we're gonna make this. This is what it is. We're not gonna pretend we're not making it. Basically,
they
that's
actually-
the thing. It's like, we're not going to pretend we're not making it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, no, they did that right. They did, though, flat out say when they released that, they said if this does not sell enough, it is like, it has the potential for us to cancel it, right? Like, didn't they say that in one of their announcements where they said, like, if this doesn't sell, it very well
For Snake Mountain?
For the Thunder
their,
Tank.
Their Thunder Tank, yeah. It may very well
I
not
thought for
never
the Thunder
get
Tank, I remember reading it in one of the interviews. He was like, this is going to get made.
Okay,
we're,
I could.
I remember
be
him
off
being like, Flynn was like, we're comfortable with what we think we're going to get. And then it got, I think it got a lot more popular because they did additional runs of Lion-O and
yeah,
Panthro and Mumra.
the re-releases.
It's interesting what Exo6 is doing. I don't know if any of you guys are going to be collecting the Star Trek
Yeah.
6 scale figures, but the way they're doing it is, and this is a whole different beast because there's a lot of reuse in a 6 scale line where you have the bodies and the uniforms and you can make the heads and stuff, and modify them a little bit just for height or whatever. But they're trying to hit a production run for like the year. Like they have a number that they want to hit for the year, and they can go up and down on a particular figure. Like they can do like a more limited release, they can do a character that's not as popular. They can just slot it in as this shorter run, but in this same kind of like, we're going to be cranking out, I don't know, 1,000 a month of whatever it is. You know, maybe they're going to do 500 of this and 1,500 of that, and it's kind of an interesting approach. So if anybody is interested in, even if you're not going to collect them, like following along with some, I guess, sort of innovative ways, you know, companies are dealing with that stuff. Like this is a really interesting line.
Yeah. And that's a line
and the engine
in
is
need,
100% transparent.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's constantly in the Sideshow Freaks discussion boards with updates all the time.
Yeah, that's good. I think that is maybe one thing that some companies could benefit. Mainly Hot Toys is transparency on things. I've criticized them for years for just not saying anything to the fans ever. They're very, very private, which I just think honestly the culture is different there with a lot of companies compared to how it is with companies in the US. I think it's a culture thing. But anyways, thank you, Mark. Mark said if it's the only way I get to get the figure made, they can decide it out why anyone would be against it. I think I'm reading that right, but
since we're talking about it anyway, and it's been in the chat, what do you guys think the next HasLab reveal will be?
Didn't we say Rancor? We thought maybe we were leaning towards that.
Joe was just saying, maybe a Rancor or like a Cantina playset, possibly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Trevor
Rancor
says
is my
Jabba's Palace.
initial thought. Yeah.
Yeah, those would all be
Because
really cool.
they said it wasn't going to be a vehicle, didn't they?
Right.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
a vehicle. So that's why we're thinking either Beast or some kind of playset type thing. Of course, I think it'd be more likely to be something like the Cantina than it would be a Palace playset. Maybe
Right.
just a throne room / carbonite mounting block station. You know, the whole have to try to do like double layer. Like I think that'd get a little out of hand. For
They
as
could
far as
do
process.
they could do
decent amount of-
Jabba with his throne,
Yeah.
and then have Book of Boba Fett throne as well, potentially, like one
Yeah.
playset area, like just that
Yeah.
one room, and then
Now,
you
I'm
can
not
maybe
a
swap
big-
out the two.
Yep. I'm not a big Black Series collector, but I do collect the Mandalorian stuff. So if they did that, I'd probably jump in on it.
I was going to say, in general, I think they have more stuff for Jabba's Palace right now. Like, at least,
That's true.
Lando Skiffguard and stuff. Out for the Cantina, outside of the actual main characters, I don't think they've done anyone. I mean, Greedo.
Yeah, that's really about it.
I think
I
they have
did read
Ponda
rumors
Baba
they were going to do
coming.
Ponda Baba.
Did they do
It's the
Ponda
same.
Baba? I couldn't remember if they did that in Black Series.
It's
or not.
rumored to coming.
Yeah.
Which one is Ponda Baba again, offhand? What it?
He's got the tusk. he's
Walrus
tusk
Man.
Yeah, Walrus
Walrus
Man. The one that got
yeah,
his arm
okay.
cut off by Obi-Wan.
Gotcha.
And then Dr. Evazan, the
Yep.
He's got the death sentence on 12 systems. Bad
Yeah.
dude.
yes,
Yeah.
he made it
Yeah,
out of
no.
Jeddah.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
did.
that's right.
He did. Both of them did. So they're doing something right. They just picked the wrong spot to stop for a beer
I
afterwards.
love Rogue One, but that was a little like, didn't this planet blow up like 30 minutes later?
That's true.
Well, when you think about the time frame of the movie, you're like, well, you had a good day today, but tomorrow's not going to end so well for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I made it off
Yeah,
the
that's
planet.
true.
Yes, gets his arm cut off, dies.
Yeah.
Who is this old white dude with the bit? Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. I always just thought of that as like a cool cameo. I never thought of like the storyline after that to where he had to have hustled at that point, and then hurry up popped in another cantina and then lost his arm and gotten killed.
That's it. You never know.
Okay, so another big thing, like I mentioned at the beginning, or kind of when we were sitting in before we pressed record, we covered this on the Collecting Weekly show, re-releases. It's a big thing that's blowing up with Hot Toys that a lot of people are... It's controversial. A lot of people... It makes good conversation. So, for instance, Iron Man Mark V. Yeah, I want to say it was about 3 to 4 years ago. the Hot Toys released the diecast version. His armor kind of comes out, looks like it's starting to get pieced together. Well, it didn't sell all that great. And we know this because there weren't many that were made, and it sold out before it even went into stock. Right around when it was about to go into stock on Sideshow, it went sold out, and then pretty much about a year afterwards, it was up to $800 to $900. And then recently, Hot Toys straight up re-released the thing, and a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, they're taking away from my collectibles." John, the everyday collector on Hot Toys, he hates re-releases for that. He said, "You're not doing the old collector, your existing collectors any favors," that sort of thing. So I guess my first question is, have you experienced that in your own collection? And then how did you feel about it? And I guess, reasons why.
Can I ask a clarification question?
Sure.
Are these folks upset because they feel like it hurts the resale value of what they have, or is that what it is?
Both.
Yeah, mass
Resale value
mass,
and then like collectability of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say mass behind collectability.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
That's a good,
that's
word.
just bullshit. They're just upset because the resale value tanked. And I got news for you: Ethereum's down
fun.
7% today, and Bitcoin's down 5%. And I'm not out there crying about it. If you buy something, buy it to buy it. If you're buying toys to finance your kids' college, then they're probably not getting in, because if you pass that IQ down to them, it's not happening.
I think one place where it can be annoying is for the people who went out and bought that Iron Man 2 weeks
That
ago
I can understand.
for $800,
Yeah, of course.
and then they released it. You're like, oh my God, what a mistake
But
that was.
It's
Yeah.
just like anything. Again, whether we're talking about toys or Bitcoin or the stock market, sometimes you buy at the right time, sometimes you don't. And I know I'm kind of making a joke out of it, but that's the chance you take.
Yeah.
And I hate it for folks if they did go out and spend $700 or $800 and then it dropped for a couple of $300.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the game.
I agree with you guys. I generally dislike the edition size crowd. I've seen I don't follow statues too much, but I've seen some guys who are like, "Well, what's the edition size in this?" And I'm like, "Well, what does that matter? Do you like this statue or no?"
Right, because the lower the number, the more likely they are to buy it. Because
I mean, I'm not trying to insult anyone, but there's definitely, it's in the higher end collecting market where it's like they want the lowest number of whatever it is. They just don't want other people to have it in general. That's what it seems like. I mean, that's what it reads to me. I'm not, and if I were doing, if you're going to do something super expensive that people want, what we were talking about with the pre-order where you pay up front, you pay in advance, like for Mythic Legions, for example, everyone's paying up front and ordering it so they can have what they want because they want it, not because X amount of people can't get it.
right.
That just generally bothers me. Like, I don't, like we were just talking about the New Hope figures. I love them. They're worth a lot of money now for Hot Toys. If they re-release them and they were exactly the same, I don't think I would be bothered, because like I said, those are the ones I'm never going to sell. Like, unless I my wife divorced me, I lose my job, I'm sitting on the curb, that's when I'm going to sell them.
Yeah.
But it just let people have what they want and let people enjoy things they want. Especially the high end, prop replica stuff, like those type of things where it's just like, we're gonna make X amount of these, it's only 100 and you have to pre-order in the first 5 seconds, and then it's just like, okay, it's even it's almost the same way of Comic-Con stuff, but it's just in a smaller scale or a larger scale where it's like a smaller price range. I mean, it's something that's $30 or $50, and they make 10,000 instead of 50,000 of them. It's just, I don't know. I don't like that. I don't think limited editions are fine. Sorry, 1/6 shooter.
Yeah. Well, and like Bill knows, I collect a little bit of Mythic Legions here or there, but every time a new All-Star vote goes up, Bill, which one am I praying shows up?
Rhaegar.
Yeah. I want that figure so bad because I want a Warduke figure, and since no one's ever going to make any good Dungeons and Dragons stuff, that's probably the only way I'm going to cobble together a Warduke. If I went out and decided to buy that for whatever aftermarket is, and the next All-Star wave had a regular, would it suck? Yeah, it'd suck. But you know what I'd do? I'd probably go buy another one. You know?
Yeah.
But
Right.
so I just I can't. This the hobby's supposed to be fun, and there are things that are outside of
Exactly.
our locus of control that make it challenging. The limited number of stuff that goes to Target, the limited number of from Cobra Island, the issues that they were having with NECA, with the limited edition releases. I think for the Turtles stuff, yeah, that stuff does make it challenging and not quite as fun. So there are legitimate things there to get upset about without, well, gosh, I don't want everybody else to have this figure that I have because then I can't turn around and sell it for 7 times what I. Guy, come on, man, stuff it. You're the comic book guy from The Simpsons.
This is great. I am so glad I put these things on here. This is fun. By the way, we never talked about an end time, so if you guys got a drop at any point, certainly let me know. You know, we can come to an end of the show. That's on me. I never came up with a hard stop because I have tomorrow off, luckily, so I could pretty much go all night. But I know a lot of you guys are on Eastern time, so I don't want to force you to stay up.
I'm good for another half hour. I mean, I am gonna run and grab another
Around
drink,
there.
but
Yeah.
I'm good to keep going if Chris and Larry, if everybody else is.
Yeah, I'm good
Yeah,
until
around
for
that.
about another 20 minutes or so.
Okay,
Ish.
cool.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. Perfect. So the next one I had on the list. This was actually something I put on, or we discussed 2 shows ago, on Small Talk, where we were talking about finding rare in-store figures. And Eddie, I think, was the one who started talking about this, that he started lifting shelves at Target and finding things. And yeah, we were talking about, have you guys ever heard of that or done that, like at a Target or Walmart or anything?
I saw
Lifting
some
shelves?
posts. I saw some posts of that on Facebook. I've never done it. I found a bunch of stuff on top shelves whenever Toys R Us was still open. You remember they had the thing that would swing forward.
Yeah,
I would
I
find
remember
stuff
that.
in there, but I've never hidden it. That to me is kind of a bad sport thing to do. Look, if you don't have the cash for it, I'm sorry. You're collecting toys, man. If you can't.
What is the term? Lifting shelves, like moving.
Yeah,
products
so-
like
around?
literally lifting up the bottom of them because they're hinged and there's an empty space underneath the bottom shelf.
Oh no, I've
Yeah,
never.
they're using that to hide figures and come back
Yeah.
and get them later. And dude, if you can't afford $20 or $40 or $60 worth of figures that you're going to look for, and you got to hide them and keep somebody else from getting them till you come back. What is
I've
that?
heard of like Target employees doing that, where they're like hiding them. I remember seeing some
Yeah.
YouTube video like hiding them around the diapers or something, like just shoving them wherever, which is obviously shitty because. Yeah, sorry
I think,
you're working
whether
today,
it's
but we need
employees
to buy
or
these.
collectors or whoever, that's just garbage. If I walk into a place and I can't get it or don't want it, or maybe I want it late, I'll leave it there and I'll take my chances and come back later. I don't need it that bad to screw somebody else out of it.
Yeah, so I never knew that was a thing until Eddie mentioned that a couple shows ago, where he saw someone doing it and he had been through aisles. And I'm like, I'd never even heard of that as a thing.
Yeah,
So then
'cause
the oh, go ahead.
Really quick, I hadn't been collecting action figures that long, and when I got into this group on Instagram, they were big into they'd hide it for either their friends or if they bought a couple, they'd hide the others for someone else in the group or something like that. So when I heard they did that, I wouldn't hide stuff, but I was like, okay, so I wonder if I go into my Target, if I lift this shelf, if I'll find stuff then. It didn't become like I need to hide stuff. It became more of like an Easter egg hunt or something for me. Like, I want to find cool stuff.
Let's see what's under the shelf.
So I went into the summer, like the pool stuff, and how that stuff switches out during whatever time of the year it is. I went over there and I lifted one of the shelves, and the first shelf I lifted, it was like years. People had been hiding stuff under here for years. There was old WWE Elite figures from 2005. They were stuck to the floor
Stuck to the floor.
from how old they were, and they were a bunch of the guys, like, they thought it was really cool because they were looking for him. It was like a Jake the Snake and a Hulk Hogan that were like selling for like 100 or 150 on eBay that I had found. And so I got them, and I got them for my buddies for like super cheap because they weren't even in the system in Target anymore. I took it up to ring it up, and they couldn't give me a price. So I was like, oh, I think they're like $10 or whatever, you know. So they rung me up for $10, and you know, I found, and they had multiple things in it. There's like Funko Pops, steel books, like somebody had been hiding anything under there. But I just thought it was a funny thing that like you look like an idiot though. Like if you're in the store and you just like lift a shelf or something, and some family comes around the corner or worker, they're like, "What the hell are you doing, man?" Like,
you know what? I take it back. I did that one time. I was in the 8th grade, and I used to ride the bus to the public library, and there was a Kmart in the shopping center. You know, you walk across the way. So I'd walk down there once in a while, and I wanted to see what they had. And I found, it was, so this was, I would have been in the 8th grade, so 89, 90. Transformers G2, I found a G2 Starscream. I never had a G1 Starscream. I wanted a Starscream so bad. So I took that Starscream and I took it over to the women's clothing and found just the ugliest stack of shirts I could find, and I stuck it way underneath there, hoping that those shirts wouldn't sell out between that day and tomorrow when I could bring my stash of $1 bills that I kept at the house. Came back the next day. So, yeah, I take it back. I'm a huge hypocrite. I hit a G2 Starscream in 1990. I confess.
Was it there?
Yeah, it was there. I still have it. It's in a box in my garage right now. And here's something funny. I was going through my stuff while I'm going through stuff getting ready to move. They came with these little sound effect things in G2. They all came with electronics.
Yeah.
And this had like the 3 noises, the jet sound and the bomb and the laser. It still works.
Oh my god.
31
the batteries
years later, the sucker, I figured the battery would have leaked acid all over my hand, but it still works.
That's awesome. Yeah, so of course after, like, it was like 2 days after we had that show, I went to Target, and we were there for other things, my girlfriend and I of course walked down the Black Series aisle, just looked around real quick and lifted underneath, and as soon as someone walked by, I just let it go and walked away. I didn't find anything, but I just never knew that was a thing. So I just thought that was like kind of a funny question to ask you guys there.
Imagine if you lifted it up and found like a vintage Kenner figure, and then like somebody like a worker walked by, and you had to drop it and leave it because you were too embarrassed, and then you'd missed out on like a carton full of
not there.
If I lift that sucker up and finally find a Cobra Island Viper, I don't care if they're doing a new trainee tour of the store. I'm taking that sucker with me.
Larry, I feel so bad. I did very similar to what you, Bill, did with Hasbro G.I. Joe Classifieds, where I was very deep into it. Eventually got annoyed that I couldn't get everything, and when a Mezco announced for it, that's where Eddie always makes fun of me, is Mezco announced that they're coming out with 1 1/4, and I was like, oh shit, I'm just selling all of this. I hate the hassle of it, selling all of it, and I'll just go with Mezco now. Well, I had a Viper in there that
You know what? But here's the thing. To show I'm really not a hypocrite, I don't get upset about it. They'll show up eventually.
Yeah.
They got Cobra Infantry. They're a little bit different. If we get a Viper that's a little bit different, that's awesome. I'll get my Viper one day, one way or the other. It's a $20 toy. It's not worth losing sleep over.
There's some kind of Target reissues event starting next week. Does anybody know what's going on with that? It's like every day they're going to be like re-releasing some stuff that's sold out.
Is this on Pulse?
It's on Target.
Target itself.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So
That's
keep
pretty
it
cool.
look out for that.
A lot of people were complaining because Hasbro said they were going to start re-releasing a lot of classified or Cobra Island stuff on like Pulse and things throughout the month of June, and they did spontaneously. Like I was able to pick up the Supreme Cobra Commander and then the light blue version of the Cobra Commander.
Yeah.
But they just trickled it in. But I think they made it sound like in one of their streams, didn't they, that they were gonna do like a mass kind of re-release type thing with them.
They said that they were, and I don't remember the exact wording, if they were getting it more of these out. I mean, again, here, folks have to exercise a little God-given common sense and understand that they don't have a genie in China doing this, and here comes a whole new run of figures. There are things in the factory, and they're in order. There are things that are in queue, and even if they do want to give us Vipers or Beachheads or whatever, they're in line behind the other stuff that's already being made. You know, Pulse really showed me that they're trying, at least trying to listen to the collector. Breaker and the Ram Cycle went up on Pulse. Barbecue went up on Pulse. It was up on Target for quite a while. Barbecue was up there for several hours. Major
It's like
Blood
your
was
date.
readily able to find. I was able to pick up a Major Blood for Chris.
Yeah.
So I feel like they really are trying, because yeah, this line's been going for about a year now, but it's a big boat. You know, you can turn hard all you want to, but once in a while you still hit the iceberg. It takes a minute to change directions, and it's even more true with manufacturing. And again, I think if folks would step back and think about the logistics behind production of anything, you know, Hasbro has a specified set of factories that they use to produce whatever they're producing. And Classified isn't the only thing they're producing. They got everything from Transformers to My Little Pony to everything to, 15 different buzzworthy bumblebees that have to show up at Target. So there's a lot of stuff in queue. So yeah, maybe we are going to get Vipers. It might be another 6, 8, 10, 12 months. But just because they say this is our intention and you don't go to Target the next week and see it, again, that's no reason to lose your mind and act like a petulant little kid. Just think about the process. Think about the realities that are involved in manufacturing.
Yeah.
These are the same people that would go to a restaurant and get pissed off at the server because the kitchen's running behind. That's who these
Yeah.
people are.
Right. No, that's I agree with that. And like I said, I even like on your points on all of your guys' shows, I almost agree with everything. Just kind of the down to earth one. But Eddie, I know you had a question for these guys.
Yeah, just because I know that, we're coming up on the end of it, and I wanted to... This one is the most important for me, so I wanted to ask you guys, since you guys have been collecting for a while and then doing the show also for a good amount of time too, I'm relatively new to both collecting and being on a show or being part of the social media part of it. How has, if at all, starting the show changed? Has it changed the way you feel about the hobby at all, or has it changed the way you feel about collecting? Do you ever feel like sometimes it's not a hobby anymore, or it's not as much of an outlet as it used to be before you started the show? I don't know if you guys have those feelings. You all seem pretty positive, so that's why I thought it'd be something good to ask you guys.
I'd have to say, for me, the thing that makes the hobby sometimes frustrating or annoying, or sometimes when I'm like let down by the hobby is less so dealing with the podcast or the YouTube channel or whatever. And trust me, like for a while I was doing 2 YouTube reviews a week plus 1 podcast episode a week. So like there was burnout on that side of it, but that's just the content creation side, for lack of a better word. That's not the best term to use for but anyway, so I think like it tends to be like the social media and the the interactions and seeing so much I don't know, just meanness that people have towards each other in these collector groups and stuff, and like this whole like internet troll culture that's out there that to me kind of brings it down for me a little bit sometimes. But in terms of like podcasting and video making and editing and creating my own little form of art or whatever, it's not, I mean, one thing it's done for me is having YouTube videos, reviews like that, and always pulling figures off of my shelves for like to put in comparisons in the videos, especially when I was doing 2 a week. Like this room still hasn't recovered from it, even though I haven't made a video in like months. Like it's just absolute chaos and mess trying to do videos like that when you have figures everywhere that you're bringing into the review table. But yeah, no, it makes it better actually. Having a chance to talk with Chris and Larry every week and like just having friends to share the hobby with beyond that like really toxic social media experience is really one of the things that keeps me going and gets me more excited about it.
I have to agree with Chris, echo everything that he said because I mean I'm sorry with
Bill.
Bill. I'm sorry. I was looking at your name printed there for some reason when I started my sentence, and that's why I have a hard stop at 10:30 because I turn into a pumpkin. I agree with everything that Bill said from a standpoint of that camaraderie and that just being in a more positive atmosphere. We don't just talk when we do the show. We have a little messenger group that we talk all week and have you seen this, or what do you think about this? We'll put up pictures of the things we got, and I have a lot of folks that I consider internet friends on a lot of the boards and groups, and some of them are real life friends. But it's one thing to have that, but it's another thing to have that real life interaction. And these guys' opinions and attitudes and their viewpoints and the way that they look at things have definitely augmented and shaped the way I see things. I think I was never one of the crazy complainers. I might have wanted to strangle Scott Knightlick at some point in 2010, but I would have never acted on it. But seriously, I feel like I'm a much more patient and understanding collector because of their influence. I also feel like my bank account is a whole lot lighter because of their influence. Between the Mondos and the Mezcos and all the wonderful things that they've introduced me to, sideshows. But it's been a really positive experience, and it's something fun to talk to my friends about. Most of my real life friends are either medical people or meatheads. That's my world. And they're like, wait, you collect toys? I'm like, do I collect toys? I dabble. Check it out. But I've got several of my friends and coworkers in the past that have checked out the podcast and like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. I like that. And so it's been wonderful. I love it. I love it as an outlet. I love it as an opportunity to learn. Bill does so much great detective work on stuff. Okay, guys, this is going to drop on this day at this time. They had this many in queue, and hey, you better get this up. They've only got 750 of them left, and they're going quick. It gives us the play-by-play.
I figured out the
so
Mezco URL.
Exactly. I mean, and I've picked up a lot of really cool Mezco stuff that I would have missed otherwise if it wasn't for the I've got to come up with a detective nickname for you, the teacher detective. I don't know.
I've been able to decode the clues too, like all of the little like slugfest hints and things. I've done a pretty good job of that stuff.
Yeah, but it's awesome. I've enjoyed it, and I can say that it's been nothing but positivity for me.
Yeah, same here. I know, Bill, you deal with a lot of the social media aspect because you're the face and name of the podcast. So we kind of escape that a bit, but yeah, it's been pretty positive overall. Going to Larry's point, I'm almost certainly never would have collected Mezcos or Mythic Legions had it been for this podcast.
Nope.
I remember, I just never would have really dived deep into them, especially the the Rumble Society and all that type of thing. It's like, oh my gosh. It's like people look at these things. I'm like, I don't know what they're from either. Don't worry.
They just look cool. That's all they're supposed to do. They're supposed to look cool.
Yeah, it's been good. It used to. I remember the first time Bill invited me on a podcast, and go Gomez, stealth with the gold Gomez head, or is that different?
That's the basically it's the
black skull.
The black skull with the Gomez head.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Yeah. The first podcast I remember I did with Bill, I'm pretty sure it was a Kylo Ren, one of the exclusives of The Last Jedi or something, or whatever it was, the figure arts. I'm pretty sure I had 3 versions of it. Like that was the 3rd release. I remember before it started, I sat with all 3 figures and I literally wrote a whole page down of like notes and differences and everything I could find. And then after nowadays I'm just like, I gotta open this thing. Like the podcast is gonna start in 10 minutes.
Sometimes we open them on the
Barry
air.
opens them on the air.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna have a chance to open this, guys. You're gonna get my true out of the box reaction.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about the podcast. So we've been doing this a few. Gosh, I guess I've been doing it about. Maybe a couple years at that point. When Steph and I met, and we met at the gym and we were training together and we do cardio and I'm like, she seems really cool. I can be honest with her about me and who I am and what I like. And I'm telling her about the toys and this and the podcast. And she was like, oh, what's the name of your podcast? And I told her, she's like, okay, I'll check that out. And I'm like, okay, cool. Meanwhile, I'm thinking to myself, you're never listening to that. Come to the gym a couple days later, and she was like, oh, I listened to your podcast. I thought it was really great. And she's talking about things we talked about. And it was at that point that I knew I was done. Like I was done. I was done. There was no coming back. But
so you actually owe a lot more to the Dorklair podcast than you.
Yeah, right.
You ain't kidding.
I'm just kidding.
I'm telling you, I've been blessed in every way imaginable.
No, yeah, that's I don't want to hold you guys too long here. I could do this all night long. This is a ton of fun. Everything I expected really from it, with the answers and kind of banter we had, to be honest. So I just created like kind of a quick list of questions going into this show, and I got halfway through the list.
I was gonna say, we hit about 4 of them.
Yeah, I think yeah, we got probably, we skipped around a little bit, but we got probably halfway, if that, through. I would definitely love to do this again. You guys have been a joy. Honestly, it's really good, interesting to hear you guys talking about this, and you guys have a pretty good sized fan base that kind of popped in our chat here. So maybe you guys got to do a live show more often.
Yeah, that's true.
You guys do a good job with kind of your show layout. Like I said, I know, Bill, you said you kind of used a couple different formats, or a format that you listened to before. I had always wanted to do a figure review like you guys do at the end of the show with ours, but it's very rare that we ever seem to have the same figure. So that part is respectable. But Bill, before we kind of close up here, if you want to just kind of quick plug your guys' network, your show, that sort of thing, and then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, so we're on retrozap.com. You can just go to dorklair.com to find all our podcasts. My Mezco checklist, which is something that I do on the side that gets a ton of traffic, funny enough. That's on dorklair.com as well. So if you need a Mezco 112 checklist, check it out. I've been maintaining that for a couple of years now. So dorklair.com, and then just Dorklair on social media. So Dorklair on Twitter, the Dorklair on Instagram, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, in that checklist, I actually used that quite a bit last year. So every year we do these. Zach would kill me if you heard, but like bullshit end of the year awards. I say that because I am a sucker for them. I love like figure of the year shit and like that whole like kind of thing. I am all about it for whatever reason. I'm just a sucker for it. And when I was going through like figure of the year awards, I was trying to find like checklists to like Marvel Legends that got released over the years or over the past year, and then like Black Series, and then yours I used for Mezco. So again, I know I said this before, but thank you for all you guys do for the community. It's a great it's great for the hobby in general. I've always said that I gravitate towards places and media that seems to do well for the hobby and seems to just grow it rather than, I guess, kind of keep it stagnant. So thank you guys for that. Thank you so much for hopping on this bonus episode of Small Talk. We make sure to check out the Dorklair. You guys record at the same time we do on Thursdays, I think, actually. But when do you guys typically upload your podcast?
Sundays at 3. It's live every other Sunday at 3.
Perfect. Yeah. So perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I hope we can do this again. I had a ton of fun. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a
guys.
lot.
Thanks,
It was a
guys.
lot of fun. Bye, guys.